Welcome. This is Resilience Radio. Who am I? I'm Irvin Eisenberg, owner of Resilience Occupational Therapy and show host on Resilience Radio. The opinions on this show are not necessarily shared by me. I like to feature a variety of different perspectives, and everyone has their own healthcare needs. Additionally, none of this is meant to be medically prescriptive or diagnostic in any way. For the last 2 weeks, we've been listening to some interview with Grace Johnstone about chiropractic and hyperbaric chambers. This week, we just have a brief clip of Grace and I talking about the nervous system, pain patterning, and the fact that we actually have some what we think of as central nervous system tissue in our gut. Enjoy. Some questions I had just in my own clinical interests, and I've been studying a lot of sort of the neuroscience of pain lately, and the fact that pain is a process in the brain. It's not a process in the body, and it's how we process information, and sometimes we're hypersensitized too. And it's always a delicate balance to tell someone that all pain is in their head while not making them feel like you're not hearing that they're in pain. Because it doesn't make it fictitious. That's what it is. And I was just curious where that paradigm and what I'm working with there fits in with your belief system and practice.
So I'm not sure exactly the question. I would comment that yes, pain happens in your brain, and I would also say that really your brain is present more in your body than we ever thought it was before. You know, we used to think of the brain, neurochemistry as being here, and we know now that all of your organs, all of your incoming sensory perceiving organs are all lined with receptors for all of the molecules of neurochemistry that, you know, we used to think were just in your head. They're everywhere. They line your gut. You know, in fact, you have as many neurons in your gut or more than in your spinal cord. So it's a rich existence. And yes, pain is a function of that neural function and patterning. You know, one of the things we've seen with hyperbaric, some of the research that's been done in chronic pain syndromes. So people with fibromyalgia, people with really recalcitrant migraines, unresponsive pain syndromes, they've done some studies in hyperbaric with them, and there's a percentage of those people that we know have what we call aberrant pain pathways that seem to set up when the brain or when the person is just experiencing chronic unrelenting pain. One of the things we found in research with hyperbaric is that so we treat people with migraines, we treat people with fibromyalgia. The vast majority of those people, as they treat, will improve in all facets of their symptoms around, say, migraines. There will be some portion of those people, somewhere around 30%, who will, as they treat, actually have a spike in symptoms early in care, early in treatment, and then it will resolve, and they will also have the same level of significant change in terms of pain and fatigue and all of the other sensitivity to pain, ability to focus, brain fog, all the other stuff that typically goes along with those pain syndromes. And what we've figured out is that spike is when the aberrant pain pathways in that population are actually rewiring. It took some follow through with that, but that's what they've discovered now through doing research. So it's interesting, you know, there's a lot there that we don't know, but we're tipping into it, you know, getting into the weeds and learning more about it. And just for people to hear it's in your head, you know, the fact is it can't this distinction we've made between brain and body, like if it's in your head, you made it up, is just completely false. It's just not how it works. No, if it wasn't in your head, you wouldn't have it.
Yes.
You know? It's completely valid.
Yes. Yeah. Everything's all in our head, right. and other parts of the body. And I was curious about, you were talking about there being sort of the equivalent of brain tissue, neural tissue in the gut and other parts of the body. What's the clinical that's sort of something I've heard before. What's the clinical significance of that?
Well, it's do some digging around in what's called the enteric nervous system, because that would probably get you down the right rabbit holes to find more about this. As I said, it's something, it relates to, as we're learning more about the vagal system, for example, and it's widely, felt effects that have been completely unrecognized, really, until fairly recently. To limbic system involvement and how that affects our physiology. We think of these things as distinct, and they really aren't in a lot of ways, right? And I'm not sure I answered your question.
Well, you sent me down the right path, at least for figuring out the answer to that.
Look into the enteric. Yeah.
In your clinical practice, do you feel like that understanding that of where that there is what we think of as central nervous system type tissues that exist outside of the brain and spinal cord, does that affect any of your day-to-day practice in any way? Or
for sure. Yes. When you talk about the enteric nervous system, like people, our expressions make this clear. What's a gut feeling? It is literally a feeling in your gut. You know what I mean? Your gut has those receptors and can create a lot of those neuropeptides. And these are things we just didn't know. So when you have a gut feeling about something, that's why it's usually right. You do know, you're not just thinking about it, making up a story about it. You are having a real physical effect. And in our practice with chiropractic, it's one of the reasons that having the skill set to work directly with the viscera, with the organ systems, can be really important, because literally that all involves fascial systems as well. That's all suspended in fascia. Fascia is like the magnetic tape of memory, right? It retains things. It's a storage container. It defines shapes and relationships. And whether that's, torsion in an ovary or a gut situation, the enteric system is really important to be able to have, I think, a skill set to drop in and work with that in a way that's both gentle and also very deep, so that it can actually process and redefine and reshape and start to alter its function.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Resilience Radio this week. Thank you to Aaron Marcus for providing music for this show with their tune Some Biological Process. You can check the show notes for full credits on that. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can share it with a friend or subscribe and get a new episode every week. You've been listening to Resilience Radio. Take care.